We also see technology in the agriculture sector, a flood-resistant rice now, which will benefit so many farmers in UP and Bihar. So the rice, when the rains come, which they're coming more frequently, can last for 2 weeks underwater. That's a huge change for farmers, a much bigger yield. So we're seeing it across the various sectors.
The one worth mentioning is that digital money, because the central bank created these payment banks that'll go into operation in just the next few months. We think that's going to be amazing in terms of farmers getting better credit, fees for everything being lower, government payments getting to the people they should get to. So when you bring up innovation, we have a hard time holding back.
Who's benefiting from the software programs? Bill Gates. But not only there, in agriculture, Bill Gates is forcing on Africa the Green Revolution. Right. It's called the Alliance for the Green Revolution in Africa. He is forcing Africa to accept patents on seed. He's writing the laws sitting in London and getting the governments whom he's made dependent through his philanthropy. His philanthropy is a chain of slavery. And if you look at the new technologies, because the new GM technologies are this thing called CRISPR and gene editing. Right. He's the main investor. He's also the main investor in a firm called Editas that owns the patents on gene editing. He has launched a whole program called DivSeq, which is genetic mapping to own seeds. On the climate resilience, they can't invent climate resilience because it's a multi-genetic trait. What they do is read a genome, which is the IT part, with an algorithm make a guess of which part of the genome is leading to the drought tolerance, the flood tolerance, the climate tolerance. And 1,500 patents have been taken through theft. I call it biopiracy. So the next slavery is the convergence of this power, of the poison cartel, the IT industry, and the financial world. And they are going to try every trick to enslave us and fool us. And we have to try every creative imagination to stay free.
Dig your hand in the land and listen to my story. Feel the cotton, wheat and corn, the riches and the glory. Feel the sweat and strain of those who worked before me. Dig your hand down in the land.
The Green Revolution, which is really the introduction of chemical agriculture under forced circumstances to countries like India, was basically created as an antidote to social change. It was meant to reinforce patterns of inequality, which it did. The smaller peasants lost their land because they could not afford to keep up with the credit payments linked to the Green Revolution. The intensive water use has left large tracts absolutely desertified. The agricultural diversity that fed people has been wiped out. And yes, the production of rice and wheat has increased, but that is not an absolute increase in food. The production of legumes, of dals, of chana, of chickpea, of oilseeds, of mustard has all come down.
They are chemical companies first, but they are seed companies second. That is their... If you can control the seed, you control the profit from growing food.
You create a monopoly when you're providing seeds which have been engineered to be resistant to the pesticides that are used on those seeds.
Once a company starts to see royalty collections from every seed, it pushes its genetically engineered crops to replace the native crops that farmers and peasants have grown over millennia.
It is driven by the bottom line and the financial interests of those companies. It is not driven by any public spirited purpose.
So it's nothing to do with feeding the world, it's nothing to do with tackling some of these huge issues we're facing today. It's about control of the food sector, of the food economy.
It's because genetic engineering is being brought to us by the old agrochemical industry, which is interested in maintaining its agrochemical sales of herbicides and pesticides, while also establishing a monopoly control on the seed, that genetic engineering has gone in a totally wrong direction as far as agriculture is concerned. I did my MSc Honours in particle physics in Punjab between 68 and 73. It was a peaceful, prosperous land, the most prosperous part. It's the land of 5 rivers. Panj is 5.
That was a kind of the breadbasket of India.
It always was a big producer, but part of what the Green Revolution did was concentrate rice and wheat production in Punjab with very intensive water inputs, very intensive chemical inputs, very intensive financial inputs, all driven by conditionalities because in 65 we'd had a drought and India needed a little more wheat import to regulate the prices, not because people were starving, but the United States and the chemical industry had been trying to push chemical farming on India. And they said, we'll send you wheat only if you also change your agriculture to be chemical agriculture. The name given was the Green Revolution.
Right.
Not very green,
right.
not very revolutionary.
Right.
And what I found through my studies for the United Nations University is first that the Green Revolution didn't grow from within India. It was imposed by the chemical industry via the US government and the World Bank. They also create a situation where farmers don't decide what they'll grow and how they'll grow it. They don't decide the water inputs. They don't decide how the food will be grown and the price it will be sold.
Let me just interrupt there. They don't decide because they can't get loans unless they abide by what the central authority wants them to plan in terms of cash crop, commodity crop. Is that?
Well, the package of industrial farming is a package where industry decides what inputs.
Even if you're a farmer that has your own land.
The Green Revolution tried to bring the US model of industrial farming, and the emergence of the conflicts, the Sarbat Khalsa was one declaration. They said it so clearly. When we don't decide how we'll grow our food and what price it'll sell at, we are living under conditions of slavery. And I think this is exactly what an American farmer would be saying today. Now, what is Monsanto? First of all, Monsanto wasn't in the seed business. It made chemicals. It made Agent Orange. It's when genetic engineering as a possible tool became available, they said, we can now own the seed. And they said, we are going to write new laws internationally, which became the Agreement on Intellectual Property in the WTO. But I said, no, you don't create life, you don't invent life. And therefore, we are going to not only not allow this internationally, nationally in India, we put in clauses in our patent law, Article 3J, which says patents can't be given on seeds, plants, and animals because human beings don't invent it. Monsanto started to buy up every seed companies by suing them. Their method is sue a company till the company gets tired and sells out.
And what's their case? What case do they bring against
They bring a false claim of ownership. They've done that in India.
They own the seeds they're
selling. They
selling.
own the seed.
From the book, I didn't realize Monsanto was as big as they are. And I didn't realize how diversified they are. And you actually link them to Facebook, Bill Gates. It's quite a frightening kind of global cartel.
They've used the tools of acquisition and mergers. They've used the tools of the two applications of genetic engineering, Bt toxins in the cotton crop and Roundup Ready soya, Roundup Ready corn. They collect royalties. My assessment says US farmers are paying Monsanto $10 billion a year in addition to the cost of seed for the royalty payment. It's a new rental system. Just like we had landlords, Monsanto is the new lifelord.
90% of crop varieties have disappeared.
90% crop varieties have been pushed to extinction by the poison cartel which is engaged in ecocide.
And not just crop varieties.
Not just crop varieties, because on crops depend the pollinators. And when your plants that feed the monarch butterfly are killed, 90% of the monarch butterfly goes. When your neonicotinoids and your pesticides are sprayed and the Bt toxin in every leaf of the plant releases a poison, your bees disappear. We are in an extinction crisis, and it's this poison cartel, this is responsible for it.
But talk about the social consequences of the quote-unquote Green Revolution.
So the Green Revolution was the first generation. The second Green Revolution is the Monsanto's Bt cotton. And the Bt cotton really triggered the suicides because Monsanto was collecting royalties illegally, but farmers were taking it on credit. It's the third or fourth year when the agent who had sold the Bt cotton seeds to the farmer on credit would say, oh, now your land is mine, that the farmer would drink the pesticide. The latest figure is 310,000, and after that, Monsanto has managed to get the government to not release the data. A very clever tactic. You don't look, you don't see, you can then deny exactly what they've done about the harm of their chemicals. And they've tried it with the issue of the farmers' suicides because the relationships are so intimate. The suicides began in the BT cotton area, and most suicides, even now, are in the cotton area.
And that was not unique to India, because I grew up in a dairy farm town, and when all of these small family farms were forced into bankruptcy, we also had suicides. It was very common.
There are higher suicides among farmers in every country, in France, in Australia, in the United States, and in India. And there's a constant denial. That's why I've called the activities of the poison cartel and the billionaires who back them as ecocide for wiping out the species on this planet. 80% species are gone since the 70s. 90% crop varieties are gone. But genocide too. Because not only is the genocide the pushing of the farmers to commit suicide, but the genocide includes the 200,000 pesticide poisoning deaths. It includes the unnecessary cancer epidemic because of toxics. They are killing people and they're killing the planet.
Let's talk about the IT, which I did not know until I read your book, how tied in Monsanto and these groups were to the IT industry, and you write a fair bit about Bill Gates.
Well, Bill Gates is really the new front for Monsanto. He was till last year the richest man. Jeff Bezos, by the same tricks, has beat him up. And Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates are trying in the WTO to get zero tax e-commerce. So when Jeff Bezos gets a book to you, there'll be no tax on it, where the little publisher will have to pay all of the taxes. And it's this uneven, asymmetric system where they ride on society and give nothing back. So Bill Gates...
But they have philanthropies, don't they?
Their philanthropies are investment. Bill Gates' philanthropies are investments for his future economies. And the future economies are a convergence of the poison cartel and their biotechnology, the information technology, and the new financial technologies based on digital. It's all one continuum. In India, as I've written in the book, our cash was banned in 2016. Overnight, it was illegal. 3 days later, who comes and gives a compliment for forced digital transactions? Bill Gates. We are forced to have a uniform tax system now. Who's benefiting from the software programs? Bill Gates. And if you look at the new technologies, because the new GM technologies are this thing called CRISPR and gene editing.
Right.
He's the main investor. He's also the main investor in a firm called Editas that owns the patents on gene editing.
How did Bill Gates come to exert such power?
Well, as is known and is in the book, Bill Gates did not invent anything. The basic program was made by some mathematics professors in a college. The Office operating system was by a software engineer, and he bought it for $50,000. He's built the empire by creating patents on software. And the first WTO meeting in Singapore gave him tax concessions, which is why all the IT industry moved to India. The fact that Silicon Valley became India's Silicon Valley is because they could save $40 billion annually by paying lower wages for the same work. It was an outsourcing of software, all for Bill Gates. He, with his accumulation of money and making any communication system illegal, like the communication system through real currency and forcing digital payments, he's the one who gains, because all the software for all the digital economy, he collects rents and royalties on that. And then he started to put some of his money into philanthropy. And everyone thinks, wow, he's such a generous man. He gives so much. But I've done an analysis in the book. Every place he gives to is his former future markets. I'll give you a simple example. So the first generation of GMOs, the BT cotton, the Roundup Ready soya and Roundup Ready corn, have started to breed super pests and super weeds. So now they're trying to get new GMOs based on gene editing and gene drives. In gene editing, not only is Gates financing the research, he has created a company for the patents. It's called Editas. So he will collect rents when the gene editing is pushed through. And worse, in the United States, half the farmlands are overtaken by superweeds. The most important one is Palmer amaranth. Amaranth is a sacred crop for us. We eat it. Now the U.S. defense system, DARPA, and Bill Gates have joined hands for a new technology called gene drives to push species to extinction. And they want to drive the amaranth to extinction. And there's a footnote in that report saying, oh yeah, there'll be a food security impact on India. They eat amaranth. No, there'll be a food security impact on the world. This is an acceleration of the race to extinction. It is immoral. It should be made illegal. But Facebook is also tried to come into India, into agriculture, using their internet systems, smartphones, and telling the farmers what data to buy. Big data is the new commodity. First, they turned food into a commodity. Now they want to turn every bit of knowledge and information into a commodity to sell back to the farmer what the farmer knows anyway, but now make the farmer feel ignorant.
And this, you write, Monsanto acquired one of the world's largest climate data corporations, Climate Corporation, for $1 billion. It acquired the world's largest soil data corporation, Solemn Inc. Both companies combine Monsanto's patented GMO seeds with proprietary platforms which, like seeds, are a source of royalty.
And together, they're looking at insurance, because if they own the climate data and they own the soil data, they're the ones who are going to tell you what your insurance is worth. And the crops, the seeds they sell will be tied to your insurance value.
Well, they're also, I think you write at one point there, they're working with Deere and Company, CNH Industrial, and AGCO to put spyware into farm machinery.
Yes, Chris, and the latest on this is fascinating because A, they're sending out drones to take photographies, they're sending out robots, they're working with Deere. So John Deere sends out a robot after taking lots of photographs, and it's this partnership. It's supposed to take photographs of healthy plants and the weeds, and it's supposed to kill the weeds. The robot gets it wrong, it kills the healthy plants, and the weeds thrive.
Is this a drone that's spraying then? Or?
They're both. They're drones for spraying. They are talking about farming without farmers. They're talking about driverless tractors. They're talking about no place for human beings. Facebook, Zuckerberg, in his speech at Harvard, said, with artificial intelligence, 99% people will be useless. The money machine, I name it the money machine, to talk about the new ways in which money is being created and accumulated. Intellectual property rights and patents is central. It's a rent collecting system. Not paying taxes is a second. Look at Amazon wanting to come to New York. It destroyed India's systems. It's destroyed India's taxation systems for its own facility. And now...
How?
Well, they got the government to create one uniform tax and to all be paid on digital, on computers. A little corner store in a little town cannot do it. They get wiped out overnight. And meantime, the reason Bezos became richer than Bill Gates is because of India, and he's acknowledged it.
Explain that further.
Well, by changing the taxation systems.
How did he change it?
By putting influence on the government of India, because just like there's a federal structure in America and your taxation system in Massachusetts is different from the taxation system of Oregon is different from the taxation system in New York, they made it one uniform GST. Before that, Bill Gates, and I have a story in there, how Bill Gates and the other IT industry worked to get cash banned. They called it the war on cash. Now, 90% of India's economy is cash. Overnight, everyone lost their lifetime savings. Everyone was made poor. Everyone was made vulnerable. Demonetization is what it was called, and the GST. These are the two things that are being debated in our national election lead-up right now. Bezos is now working with our dear Bill Gates. They want a 0% duty on e-commerce. Does it mean that when they ship things, they don't ship goods? No, they ship goods, but with zero taxation. The person on the ground in a real local economy will be paying a tax. As it is, they have become more expensive. The real economy has been made artificially more expensive because of the cheating by the money machine. But these are global companies. They have no home. They have no loyalty. They are accountable to no citizens. All of them work through tax havens. But when I did this book, Oneness versus the 1%, I wanted to really figure out, what are the stocks, what are the ownerships. That's when I realized that the majority stocks in all the corporations that rule our world are owned by the investment funds, which is where the billionaires stock their money. The biggest, BlackRock, the second biggest, Vanguard, they were nothing till the 2008 Wall Street disaster. Last year, BlackRock was $6 trillion. $6 trillion. They lost 30%. With one case of Monsanto's Roundup Ready causing cancer. It's a Californian case of Dwayne Johnson. And the jury ruled that
Roundup Ready is the pesticide.
Roundup is the herbicide that kills everything, but it has been known by the World Health Organization to be a carcinogen. Monsanto attacked the World Health Organization like they attack me, like they attack anybody who speaks the truth and does good science. But a Californian jury has ruled. And the day the ruling came, Bayer lost 35%. So when people feel, oh, these guys are too powerful, I say, they're just three. We are 300 million species. We're 7 billion people. We are more. And secondly, they are a bubble that has exploded with fictions of financial multiplication, with rent collections. Basically, Monsanto and Bayer are nothing but rent collectors. They are the life lords of today, like feudalism had the landlords. They do no work. They do nothing. They don't breed seed. They make poison and they collect rents. I think we need a better world in terms of how we grow our food.
Yet there's no question that these corporations will make war, are making war, on any alternative autonomous system.
Every day, that is where my energy goes. 90% goes in the creative part of creating alternatives, and 10% in getting them off our backs. And thank goodness we had Gandhi, who taught us that it is a duty to disobey unjust and brute laws. He did it with salt, we do it with seed, we do it with food. We'll keep on the satyagraha. Our satyagraha is for life. Our satyagraha is for the future.
Dig your hand in the land, touch the toil and sorrow in the soil, where the greenbacks never grow on what I borrowed. Dig down and tell me where's my seed for tomorrow. Dig your hand down, touch the toil and sorrow in the soil, where the greenbacks never grow on what I borrowed.